Hey, it's Chuck. Tennessee sucks as a Buckeye, boy. SEC's trash. Go Bucks. Tennessee sucks. You're going to miss out on the championship too. Y'all suck in that orange.
Yeah, I hope you have fun.
David Sanders ain't wearing that orange. That orange is ugly. Trash, man. Knoxville's trash. Tennessee's trash. Rocky Top sucks. Neyland Stadium's hideous. Tennessee sucks. Rocky Top sucks. That's a Buckeye, man. Go Bucks. Let's get it.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback. The truth is Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those. You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
We'll start here. Late Sunday night, on 3, Steve Wiltfong put out a crystal ball for Ziggy Grady. Then Monday morning, his running mate, Malik Autry, retweeted that crystal ball like this. So I'm looking at this, and I see that Malik Autry has retweeted this, and he's laughing about it. Obviously, I'm concerned, so I send it over to my pals. One of them takes a look at it and says, he's not laughing at it. So what do you mean he's not laughing at it? He said, that's the smiley face with sweat emoji. I said, oh, okay. What's the smiley face with sweat emoji mean? None of us knew. So one of them takes the tweet and says, I'm going to go ask some of the younger guys that he's in a group with. So he goes and asks the younger fellas. And the younger fellas say this. Normally send that when I say something risky to a biddy. I didn't think that's the case right there, though. Even more confused now. I figure a biddy means a nice young lady, and something risky means he's going to ask her out on a date. But I think he's right. I don't think that's the proper context there either. Then we found it online. What does this mean? It means, woo, that was a close call. The grinning face with sweat emoji is used to indicate a particular kind of relief experience when narrowly avoiding disaster. So now I'm really concerned. And then 5 minutes later, I'm not kidding, 5 minutes later, Ziggy Grady, the graphic pops, he's committed. He's going to be a Buckeye. We can wipe the sweat off our brow. We got him. And what a big one it is, man. A really big one. And shout out to Larry Johnson and Allen Clark, his assistant, as they land 4-star Troy, Alabama edge rusher Zion Ziggy Grady to the Buckeyes, 6'4", 235 pounds. As a sophomore and junior combined, this guy had 205 tackles, 79 tackles for loss, and 33 sacks. Absolute crazy production. He's another one of these guys who was committed to Alabama before Saban retired, just like Jamie French, but this one's going to end better, I think.
Jamie French checking in, Jacksonville, Florida, top 4, who will it be?
Though it will be a battle all the way to the end. You know, that's for sure. It always is when we get a guy from down there. He chose the Buckeyes over Florida State, Tennessee, Florida, and Miami. And we know Florida and Miami are going to keep on coming. Ziggy said, they continue to impress me each time. I'm really impressed with Coach Larry Johnson's attention to detail. He makes sure he covers every aspect. Getting around the players during the visit really made a strong impression on me. Let's cue the tape of our newest guy here. And here's Ziggy Grady, man. And this dude, versatility. They stand him up. They drop him into coverage. Heavy with his hands. 3 tech, 5 tech. They put him in a wide 9. He's great out in space, as you can see. The dude is the prototypical modern defensive edge. Look at that. The power, too. I mean, sometimes you got to look at the competition for things like this. And there are on this highlight, disappointingly, a lot of plays where he's totally unblocked. But you can see him when he's got, when he's standing up and he's got a little room. He's got some serious wiggle. He's an athlete. Obviously aggressive. He's a stat stuffer. Here we've got probably not the best idea. the guard pulls when he's got Ziggy Grady lined up right in front of him. I love the dude. We're talking about the 60th ranked prospect in the class. So another top 100 player. We pair him with Zahir Mathis, who is number 66 ranked player in the class. Also on the defensive line, London Merritt, who is the 116th ranked player in the class. London Merritt is considered a defensive tackle by all the scouting services. He's 6'2 and a half, 250. And that's a strange size, bit in between. He told us, London, that is, that they're going to try to use him at the jack. Probably not going to happen if Justin Hill comes. And at 6'2", 250, I don't know exactly where they fit him, but, they may have him bulk up. They may have him stay where he's at and be outside. I don't know. But dude's a player nonetheless. So those are our three. And let's pull up the class right now and have a look at where we're at. So the left side, our offense, Tavian St. Clair, with running backs Isaiah West and Bo Jackson. Wide receivers, Quincy Porter, Des Jones, and BP Miller. Offensive linemen, Carter Lowe and Jake Cook. Tight end, Nate Roberts. And on the defensive side on the right, cornerbacks Devin Sanchez and Naeem Offord. Safeties Fahim Delane, Cody Haddad, Deshaun Stewart. I'm calling London Merritt a defensive end. Zahir Mathis, Ziggy Grady, and linebackers TJ Alford and Eli Lee. That's a total of 19 guys. Most likely guys next up, we got Brody Lennon. Brody told me he was going to make his announcement this week. Wide receiver Preston Bowman, we don't know. He's a Kentucky commit. I'm still feeling like there's absolutely no way he doesn't end up in this class, even though he reaffirmed that commitment today. Offensive lineman Andrew Stargell, he will announce on July 4th. Justin Hill will announce on July 3rd. We don't know when Dorian Brew is going to announce, but I feel really good about that one, and I know you guys do too. So the biggest question is, where does this leave the Buckeyes with Malik Autry? Malik Autry, 6'5 and a half, 320-pound, 5-star Auburn commit who's good buddies with Ziggy Grady. They train together. They publicly support each other with smile emojis, with sweat, the whole nine. And now Autry has two fellow Bama boys in Naeem Offord and Ziggy Grady up in Columbus, which is absolutely crazy to say. Particularly crazy when Kalen DeBoer is absolutely killing it down at Alabama this recruiting cycle here, which I still can't believe. But they're not doing it at home. In fact, the top 6 players in the state of Alabama are committed to just Auburn and Ohio State. Alabama doesn't have a single one. I didn't think that we had a chance at Malik Autry unless we got Ziggy Grady. So this definitely moves the needle some, but how much? Well, here's what he said. This is to Bucknuts Bill Kurlick about decommitting from Auburn. Quote, "It would be hard, but I have to go the best place for me to meet my goals." On his final decision. I don't have an exact date, but it should be sooner rather than later. It could come this week, but I don't know. I have to go the best place for me to meet my goals, and a decision may come this week. They clearly got to him, right? Grady clearly got to him. He's got a big decision to make. This isn't, he didn't shut this down. And the words right there seem to me like this is a serious contemplation going on for him. But the thing is, he doesn't have to make another decision. He didn't have to say that publicly. When you are committed somewhere, there is no decision to be made. He could have totally sloughed that question off and just said, I'm committed to Auburn, and gone about his business. And if he was interested in Ohio State, he still could have done whatever he needed to do. But he addressed that question and said he was going to announce something. You don't need to announce. You're already committed. You would only need to announce a flip. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe Kurlick was just pressing him for an answer to the question. But it got me all excited, man. I like that answer. I like it a lot. You know, we see these guys taking visits all over the place now when they're committed. It's almost become the norm rather than the exception to the rule. And I don't often hear them say that they're going to make an announcement. They're already committed. So I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. I did not feel like we had the greatest shot here. But, you know, we know one thing's for sure. if the Buckeyes do flip him, and they could, Auburn needs this guy. We're talking about a guy in their backyard, 15 minutes from campus, and they feel like right now is the time that they can seize momentum against Alabama with Kalen DeBoer in his first year, Hugh Freeze in his second year at Auburn, and they're going to do everything they can. And they've got money at Auburn. They're not a broke program, and they're actually paying quite a bit. And for a hometown guy like him, they're going to go after him just as hard as the Buckeyes are going after Justin Hill to keep him home. And this is a tough one with Malik Autry because we're talking about a family. Auburn's a small city, real small. And they're from the outskirts of Auburn. So we're talking rural Alabama coming up to Columbus, Ohio. Big transition. It's not like Malik is some big personality. He's not like Naeem Offord, who's, lights up everywhere he's at. So it would be a heck of a transition, but he's got some level of comfort. That's for sure, with Ziggy coming up. So I don't know, man. I'm really excited. It's definitely going to be a long haul battle. If you get him, it's an Edric Houston, J.J. Smith battle all the way down to the final signature. And let's hope he doesn't shut it down this week. But I'm stoked, man. I'm totally stoked for this one. Let's have a look-see at the rest of the defensive line prospects, because you got to do something here. If he does announce in the next week, that's awesome. But if he doesn't, you don't have any big men on the board right now, in the class right now. So we need some big bodies here. We're lacking the big bodies in the middle in this class. Obviously, we know over here, if we look on the right-hand side under Malik Autry, number one choice here, Trajen Odom, Maxwell Roy, Jarquez Carter, all options. Malik Autry, he's now a 5-star under 247 in their last updated rankings. His composite, it's not right, man. He's not the 180th rated prospect in the country. This dude is a big-time game wrecker in the middle, a big-time dude. But, the odds are still pretty long that we land him. They've gotten closer. It's gotten tighter for sure. And, we're still holding out hope. But it's going to be a tough pull, and it's going to take it all the way to the end. So you need more in there. Trajen Odom is a guy who is down to Ohio State, USC, and Oregon. And as you can see, a really good player, but, not on Malik Autry's level. And because USC and Oregon are involved, the price has gone up. Maxwell Roy is a guy that the Buckeyes were in on, and then he tore his ACL. He's out of St. Joe's. St. Joe's Prep, Isaiah West school, Isaiah West teammate, Jim Knowles' alma mater. And I think that the Buckeyes really like him, but he's got the injury concern. So he's been trending towards Michigan. Even up last week, he was still like crystal balled to Michigan. The Michigan sites were saying he was about to sign. That went on for like 3 weeks, and he never did. Is he holding out for the Buckeyes offer? He's risky, right? With the injury risk. He's risky with the injuries, but a really good player, as you can see, highly rated. He's risky with the injuries, but as you can see, he's higher rated than Trajen Odom. I don't think he's quite the player when I watch his film that Trajen Odom is, but you've got to prioritize your money here. If you're going after Malik Autry, and your ultimate goal is at the end of the class, when Jakeem Stewart reclassifies, Jakeem Stewart, the 5-star Mr. Everything, might be the number one player in the class when he reclassifies. We'll hope he's not. We'll hope Tavian stays number one. But when he reclassifies, they're going full bore, and this is going to be another David Sanders-like check that's going to need to be scratched if you want to be in the game for him. Malik Autry will be similar. So you can save money on the Trajen Odom situation and, settle, you would call it, but it's not really settling, but take the risk going with a Maxwell Roy or a Jarquez Carter, who makes his decision July 19th, and, tell Trajen Odom you want him, but you're kind of maxed out. And then in that case, Oregon, I think what happens here is he ends up going to Oregon, and he's going to be making his decision, I believe, within the week. So Trajen Odom to Oregon. I think the Bucks are going to get Maxwell Roy in this class. Hold out hope and spend big on Malik Autry and then eventually Jakeem Stewart. Now, linebackers, when James Laurinaitis was first allowed to travel in a temporary capacity after Parker Fleming was chose not to be retained, Laurinaitis' number one target was TJ Alford. He immediately went and saw him, locked him down. And this is TJ Alford. Gentleman next to him is Riley Pettijohn, who is another top target. So you got TJ Alford, you went and got Eli Lee, and there is, one more spot they would like to fill at linebacker. They would really like to get either Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, what we call Woo around here. Woo is from Maryland, was playing at DeMatha High School, came to Ohio State with Jason Moore on a visit. He was teammates with Jason Moore, one of our tackles, and then he ends up transferring to IMG. His brother played at Notre Dame, and he is down to Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC, and Michigan, and he just had his visit at Michigan. That went really well. It was thought before that visit he was Notre Dame, then Ohio State. It was kind of between those two, and he was a Notre Dame lean. Obviously, his brother was a stud. Marcus Freeman's a linebacker, and he's doing great recruiting. So they're a tough beat. And ultimately, I think he probably ends up at Notre Dame, but we'd love to have him. But Riley Pettijohn, who was thought to be pretty much a Texas lock, it feels like all of a sudden Texas insiders are getting concerned about him being a Texas lock. And the Buckeyes have made some traction. We've even seen some people say recently that it sounds like Texas A&M and Ohio State might be the leaders. So we're still in it. And he's going to be making his decision probably in July. So we might know sooner rather than later. But if the Buckeyes don't land Woo or Riley Pettijohn, I think they probably stand pat with the two that they got in TJ Alford and Eli Lee. But the Riley Pettijohn smoke is getting real, and it's getting louder, as all the Texas insiders were kind of laughing at anybody saying Ohio State had a shot here. He's from Texas. He's been on the campus dozens of times since he was started high school, and they had him pretty much penciled in their class for quite a while now. So that's pretty exciting news. So we talked on Friday's show about the possibility of a situation arising with the Jordan Davison camp and the Buckeyes over money. And now it appeared like the Buckeyes came into it confident because they had or were trying to get an official scheduled with Shakai Mills-Knight. They called that off. Running back Byron Lewis out of Florida had an official scheduled. They called him off, their choice. So those two other running back visits called off, come into the weekend, and you got to be feeling confident, and then things go south. Apparently Davison had an agent, and the agent, I don't know, man, they wanted more money, and it didn't go the way they wanted it to go because the Buckeyes essentially said, here's where we're at. We want you in this class, but here's where we're at. The Buckeyes have Isaiah West and Bo Jackson in the class. They view those guys both as ones. They view Jordan Davison as a one. It was always going to be a tough ask to get 3 ones in a class together. They knew that. But it looked like they won the recruitment for Jordan Davison, which is what makes it so frustrating. They won on every front, and then at the last minute, it looks like they're losing out on over a money deal. But what are you going to do? Your hands are tied. Davison asking for more money is essentially Davison asking them to now pay Bo Jackson and Isaiah West more money. Because you can't tell these guys you view them all as ones and then bring these two in at the same rate, and then this guy gets more. You know what I mean? Like, you got to kind of keep them around the same number, or you got to raise these guys up to where this guy is. It's tough, man. Now you're adding all this into it, and then James Peoples, your prize recruit last year, also a highly rated, excellent back who's actually going to play this year and get a lot of run. What's he making when these guys walk in? You get this whole another equation, this whole different deal going on where you've got to worry about guys being happy with what they're making now. And it's just like, something I never anticipated we would have to think about in college football, but it's a whole new element of recruiting. And, you have to budget money now. You have to decide who gets how much and who's valued more than others. Obviously, a David Sanders guy, there's going to be no qualms from Jake Cook that David Sanders is making more money than him. But is Bo Jackson going to be irritated if Jordan Davison is making more than him? Probably not because of Bo's personality, but you know what I mean? So it's just a whole nother thing to deal with. And it sucks because it sounds like the Buckeyes won the recruitment, and here we are. So where do they go from here? Well, you called off Shakai Mills night. You called off Byron Lewis. Anthony Rogers is a guy that the Buckeyes, the thought was maybe they could try to flip him from Alabama. He came up for a visit, and he's from Alabama. He went to IMG, then he transferred back to his high school in Alabama. It didn't sound promising to me until today. Today, the number one running back in the country, Akil Deer from Mississippi, was committed to Ole Miss, and all of a sudden it looks like he's flipping to Alabama. Now, if he flips to Alabama, does that make it more enticing? And the Buckeyes can play another angle. Like the number one running backs coming in your class, maybe that helps him with Anthony Rogers. Carlos Lachlan was the first guy to offer him a scholarship out of high school. And they got a long-standing relationship. So he's got some angles to play. But if you can't get him, do the Bucs get another back in this class, or do they stand pat with two and go looking for someone in the transfer portal? Because keep in mind, after Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins leave for the NFL, your running back room next year is, in 2025, is Sam Williams-Dixon, James Peoples, both in their second year, Isaiah West and Bo Jackson in their freshman year, and walk-on TC Caffey. So do you bring in another freshman and you got 5 first and second year guys, or do you go after a veteran? I'd say it's probably best to go after a veteran in the portal, but not if you can get Anthony Rogers. I think he is someone who, give him to Chip Kelly, and this dude's a weapon. He's smaller, incredibly fast, and tough, compact and tough. Pretty special dude. So if you can go that route, if you can pull it off, I think that would be the thing that would excite me most. But, it is nice to have a guy with experience as well. But when we're talking about running backs, not imperative to be experienced. We've seen plenty of freshmen come in and at the running back position and make a real difference. So, we're counting on that from James Peoples quite a bit this year. He's going to get a lot of carries. But yeah, man, just a bummer, this whole thing, the way this played out with Jordan Davison, and I think he ends up with Oregon. So, oh my gosh, I got to show you. Let's get to the comments of the day. So yesterday, we remember the whole Texas Lamborghini entrance on their official visits, where they had the 12 Lamborghinis with the doors open. And this Texas site was clowning us for, everybody loves this, our official visit pictures with that retro room. I think it's awesome. I think everybody loves it. What's the deal with Ohio State's OV pictures and the theme of the 1970s mobile home? And he puts a picture and he's spot on. He's right. But everybody loves it. Well, Mom Ches, who is Devin Sanchez's mom, comes in from the top rope. It's for fun. I guess it's like UT showing off Lambos, like everyone will be driving one. I love that. Not the only parent to make an appearance yesterday. I put a video of Devin Sanchez going between the legs on a dunk, and Pops checks in, and I asked if he got the hops from him. He says, hell no. The athleticism comes from Momchez, but not really. I mean, well, yeah, it can too, but he was a DB at UTEP back when DBs were 5'10" and not mutants, but with Devin 6'2" and 3/4, he told me. Dad told me 6'2" and 3/4. He only gets credit for 6'2". We're going to take that 3/4 of an inch. But Devin is a freak athlete, man. Absolute freak. Isaiah Gibson. Now, Isaiah Gibson is the five-star one of the five-star defensive linemen who decommitted from USC, but he did it while he was on his official visit in Columbus last week. It was during the week, wasn't it? It was like Tuesday or Wednesday. And it was weird, though, because it didn't seem like we had any steam with him at all, even though he decommitted. Well, he's committed to Georgia now. He's staying home. So we did not end up making any momentum on that one. 4 3-star commits on offense, and I wanted to hit on this. So I've got this one a lot. So the 3-star situation is becoming a topic with a lot of people because I think we got, several in a row, and it's starting to look like what's going on. But a couple things. The blue chip ratio just came out. And, obviously we wanted to win the recruiting crown this year. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. And it looks like it's going to be the wide receiver room of all things that has carried our class for several years that is going to be the most likely setback in that recruiting crown. And there's reasons for that, and we'll talk about those. It's tough. You got JJ on campus. You got Chris Henry Jr. coming behind him, most likely. Chock full of young talent at wide receiver. Brandon Inniss, Colonel Tate. These guys want to play. They want to come in, they want to play, and they also want paid. They want paid like JJ. And they're not him. And they're not Chris Henry Jr. So you just can't do that every single class. And you can either go after that second tier of wide receivers, or you can take guys that you believe in that are program guys that you think might be undervalued. And you can win either way. But that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing is all the people that were out there that thought that NIL was somehow going to level the playing field, because we saw in the first cycle stories coming out about 5-stars spreading out to more schools. More schools had a single 5-star than ever before. Very misleading. It was true that cycle that they had spread out more. You also had teams like Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia had not gotten into the business yet of paying players. They didn't need to. So the early adopters of that came in, swiped off some of the big name guys. But it didn't change the recruiting rankings. Bama, Georgia, Ohio State still loaded up. Oregon leveled up. Texas still stay where they are. And the teams that finish 5 to 10, which is kind of a rotating 10 teams that finish into that top 10, they were all the same. And if we look at this cycle, what Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia have this year, we're talking about the 3 preeminent schools in recruiting that are about to have historic classes. I'm talking behemoth classes. Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia this year, these are awesome classes. Nothing's changed. There is no more parity. Everything's leveled out. It's exactly how it was before. And the rich might have gotten richer, really. But let's talk about these 3 stars, because I got a couple points to make about this. Yes, we want 4 and 5 stars. And, 4 and 5 stars are 10 times more likely to be first-round picks than 3 stars and 2 stars. And there's only 400 4 and 5 stars a cycle. But the blue chip ratio is the number of 4 and 5 stars that you have on your roster over a 4-year rolling average. So it's a simple equation. What percentage of 4 and 5 stars make up your roster? In 2011 and 2013, Alabama had 71% when they won the national championship. 2014, Ohio State had 78%. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 23. Nobody on that list has a higher blue chip ratio than Ohio State had last year or than Ohio State has this year, where Ohio State comes out in the most updated blue chip ratio as the number 1 blue chip ratio in the entire country, over Alabama, over Georgia, with 90% of the roster making up 4 and 5 star players, which means you can add a pile of 3 stars this year if you wanted to, and our team would still have a higher percentage of 4 and 5 stars than anybody else. And it's not particularly close, man. When you look at Georgia's at 80%, so they're 10% less than us, which is just astounding, really, when you follow recruiting, to think that we're 10% higher than Georgia with that. And if you add in the transfers, we're still number 1%. We dropped down 4, and that makes it 86%. So absolutely insane. We can handle a couple of 3 stars and still be in just as good a shape. But it's more than that. Last year, we saw 23 guys transfer out. The majority of those guys were 4-star players, several of them top 150 guys. I think we even had a 5-star transfer out. Now, ideally, you want those kind of guys to stay. But the fact is, when you come out of high school and you're a top 150 guy, you're going to want to play. You're not going to want to ride the pine. We obviously want as many guys to stick around and be program guys as we can, because remember, a lot of the guys on the team will never play significant, meaningful snaps. It's an 85-man roster. There's only 44 guys in the 2 deep, which means more than half the team are third stringers or below. So to be able to find guys that don't cost much, let's be honest, that are from Ohio, who've grown up Buckeyes like us, and who are living their dream, also with the potential to integrate and develop into excellent players, it's absolutely the right strategy. And second, instead of just saying he's a 3-star, let's actually look at these guys. Because recruiting rankings, there's a lot of things that go into them. And we're looking at guys before they've played their senior season. So the majority of these guys are getting ranked when they're 16 and 17 years old. When they play, they're 20, 21, and 22. There's a whole lot of development that goes on in a man's body between 16 and 22. Take a guy like Jake Cook. Jake Cook rated a 3-star because that's what his film shows up to this date. Well, that guy who was rated a 3-star went to those camps in the offseason, right? He went to the Under Armour camp. He went to the Rivals camp. He won the MVP at both of those camps. Then he went to Ohio State, earned himself an offer. And his senior film is going to be that guy, not the 3-star guy. And he's going to get that 4-star. So Jake absolutely will be a 4-star. How about Preston Bowman, a 3-star wide receiver? Preston not in the class yet. He's committed to Kentucky, and he has since reaffirmed his commitment to Kentucky. I still think he ends up in the class. Listen, reports came out that this kid sat at the bed of a teammate of his who passed away, a friend, when he was in the ICU. And Preston said that he told him, I'm going to get that Ohio State offer for us, because they both wanted it. Now, a guy like that, who's 6 foot, 200 pounds, comes to Ohio State camp in consecutive years. They've seen him multiple times, earns himself an Ohio State offer. By the way, his film doesn't look like a 3-star to me, and we'll watch it if he ends up committing. But that attitude, that's a program guy, man. That's a guy who's not leaving. That's a guy who's living his dream, just like Jake Cook. How about BP Miller? This guy's a little different. Started working at wide receiver 4 months ago. Comes and absolutely blows Heartline away at a camp. So they invite him back when they're having a team 7-on-7 drill. Comes back for the team 7-on-7 drill, and they put him in the house team, they call it. Handpicked guys that they had invited back because the other guys are coming with their high schools. And in this, he makes a couple of ridiculous catches. One so ridiculous that Heartline says, I've seen enough, pulls him out and offers him. Now, we're talking about a sick athlete at 6'3" who's probably going to get taller. And I think that this one is a little bit different than the others, because this is a guy who, if he happened to live in Georgia or Alabama and the same thing happened, if he walked onto their camp and showed them what he showed Ohio State, they would be just like Ohio State is right now, which is kind of laughing because they stole one here. They get to mold this guy into the wide receiver they want him to be. He's got no bad habits and all the raw skill, and nobody else knew about him. That's a steal right there. If he was at Massillon for the last 4 years playing wide receiver, he'd probably be a 5-star. And now you get him, you get to do whatever you want with him. So, we're looking at a guy 3 years down the road to contribute. So he's going to be in the room practicing, no danger of going everywhere. Loves Ohio State. They asked him in an interview his favorite Buckeye memory. He spit out Curtis Samuel's overtime touchdown against Michigan immediately. So another guy, no danger of ever leaving. He's a Buckeye. Eli Lee. With a lot of these 3-star guys, we see later offers in the cycle. Eli got offered early. And Eli Lee, a guy who Laurinaitis and Jim Knowles went up to watch him play. And after watching his film, 6'3", 230, he can move, he can cover. He's a middle guy. He's a stuffer, man. This dude's great against the run, but he can play the pass too. Also won an MVP at a camp this year. These kind of guys are still necessary, man. They're wildly undervalued at this point. Obviously, we want linebackers that can move like Atkinson. They're the sexy ones, but you still need the Eli Lees. Also, going to walk in day one and be one of the strongest guys on the team. A 700-pound squat, man. And I'm telling you that the squat numbers we see coming out of college, I see a lot of the videos. Eli didn't squat it like that. The videos that these guys are doing and a lot of these college videos that I see, we're talking like 3/4 squats. Eli's pass parallel, that can be a 150-pound difference. Seriously. And this dude is legit a crazy strong athletic linebacker. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. But it does some other things. It also gets you in. Hoban's last 2 big-time recruits went to Tennessee and Michigan. Eli Lee opens up Hoban to Ohio State. It's the most talented school in the state right now. And in next year's class, there is a tackle in Sam Greer that's going to be kind of like a franchise left tackle in college, I think. 6'8", 300 pounds, moves like a deer, shooting up the rankings. You've also got a cornerback who's a top 10, 15 overall in the country in Rock Hill. Peyton Cook is a top 200 player, wide receiver cornerback. He told me that he was working out with Tim Walton, and he thinks if he gets offered by the Buckeyes, it's going to be on defense. Then they got a linebacker who's going to be a sophomore this year. He's a running back linebacker. I think this kid's going to be a 5-star as well as Rock Hill is. And Eli Lee opens up that relationship with Hoban. So you serve 2 purposes there with that one. Not to mention this dude is awesome. He has a great family. They live right by me. They're great. And we talk about the character on this team all the time. These are all salt of the earth Ohio kids who will never leave. These are important offers. Those 4 guys, BP Miller, Jake Cook, Eli Lee, Preston Bowman, wonderful dudes, and all will have starting potential at Ohio State. Going to remain with the program, cost you almost nothing. There will always be room at Ohio State for guys like that, or we might as well shut it down because what the heck are we doing, man? Like, this is part of the reason I love college football. And if it becomes totally professionalized and you don't have room for that type of guy at Ohio State anymore, I mean, hey, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'll do, but it definitely won't be the same at all for me. Like, that's part of the reason I love college football, because I love watching Ohio high school football, and I love seeing who out of our state is going to make it. You know what I mean? And that's part of the fun for me. But these dudes are also very important. They're very important. And you look at who's the only other 3-star is Andrew Stargell. Now, we've talked a lot about the offensive line, Justin Fry's strategy. And, he had a big hit early on with Carter Lowe. And then miss. And then he kind of recalibrated his board and went out with that second round of offers. And that second round of offers, he didn't go offer the next best guys. He just offered the other 30% of guys that he didn't offer the first time because he kind of restricted his offers because he just wanted to develop these relationships. These were all very highly rated prospects that he went and offered that second round. Stargell was also in that second round, but he didn't just offer him sight unseen like he did with a lot of those guys. Zaire Addison and Henry Finucco, Jackson Lloyd, those guys just got offers. He went and saw in person Andrew Stargell because Stargell did not have any other big-time offers. He had Kentucky, NC State, or his other 2 top offers. Fry went and saw him himself, and upon seeing him himself, he decided, yeah, this is a guy we're going to offer. So that, to me, is another 3-star that you kind of stole. You got over on everybody else because you went and saw him, got your own evaluation on him that other people didn't have. So that's a really good one, too. But like I said, I think all these guys are excellent evaluations. I don't always feel that way about 3 stars or 3 stars from Ohio. So on the weekend show, we hit on the Michigan fanboy journalists. And I don't mean fanboy like they disseminate the official word or spin from the Michigan staff under the guise of objectivity. Sure, they do that. Every big-time college has one outfit that does that for them. I mean, what they do is way different than that. These guys legitimize insane fan conspiracies like Ryan Day's brother was behind the investigation and spying on Michigan's computers, or that Ryan Day was going to get investigated under the RICO Act. Ryan Day, the racketeer. When you do that and you work for a news outlet and you're thought to be a journalist, the average person that reads that thinks this must be true. And these blog boys ran with that kind of crap, and their entire fan base, who lives in a little blue bubble echo chamber, bought it all. And to this day, many of them still say things about Ryan Day and the RICO case. I'm not even kidding you. This crew of guys, man, and I mean almost all of them, they honestly try to contend that that is not Connor Stallions on the sideline at that Central Michigan game. And for all this nonsense, obviously, there's no repercussions for any of this. They continue with their BS. So it should not come as a surprise to any of us that these guys cover recruiting no differently. Now, last week, an On3 guy published a story on Brady Hart choosing Michigan over Ohio State. Coach Day, thank you so much for your offer. I'm in. Coach Day would have said, yo, hold on. You're moving a little too fast, buddy. And he says that on his way to the airport, he calls Sharon Moore and commits to Michigan. I knew it was Michigan after I walked out of Ohio State. This kid's perfect for this rivalry. He tells them that. And then he says this: Michigan was unbelievable and amazing. And when I walked out of Ohio State, I realized the culture that Michigan has isn't everywhere. That is really something. But hey, props to him. He knows how to fire it up. And I don't know if he's had a visit to Michigan or not. He hasn't had a visit to Ohio State. He was at a camp throwing on a football field for 3 hours. So trying to say he knows Ohio State culture enough to say that, that's really something, man. All right. So on the weekend show, I talked about this story here. And what happened was, after Brady Hart saw the reaction to that story that On3 published, he asked those guys to take that story down. Asked them a couple of times before they said, okay, we will do it. And it appears that either they embellished the story or he told them in confidence. And of course, they went and ran it to get the maximum own that they could on Ohio State, because they're fanboys. They're not journalists. And that's their recruiting guy. Actually, it's this recruiting guy right here. Hey, it's Chuck.
My number one wide receiver on Michigan's recruiting board is Quincy Porter. I absolutely love Quincy Porter. 6'3", 6'4", 180 pounds. I mean, he has the size, the length, and he's not just a big body. Obviously, Michigan needs a big body this cycle. They need a true outside presence. But Quincy Porter is more than that. He can stretch the field and get vertical. He runs routes like a small guy. When I saw him this year against Iona Prep, which is a really good, prep school in the Northeast, Porter tore them apart, man. 4 touchdowns. And he is that big body too. Like, he uses his size really well in the red zone. He had a jump ball win for a touchdown. I think Quincy Porter is underrated by some of the sites. He's ranked super high. Like, he's on the cusp of 5-star status. But I think he's a clear 5-star. My number one wide receiver on Michigan's recruiting board is Quincy Porter. No question.
Let's get it. Well, this guy didn't make it 4 days before he just got blasted again, as he made himself a little comment behind their paywall that a couple of the guys back there weren't too happy with, and they spread it everywhere. Here's what he has to say about the young men at Notre Dame. EJ, when you say Michigan type kid, what exactly do you mean? I have an idea what you mean. Just curious how you would describe it. High academic character, but not a weirdo like a lot of the ND kids. Trashing these young dudes when your business is to talk to these guys, keep in contact with them, interview them, let people know what they're feeling, what they're thinking, where they're going, and you go behind a paywall and trash them because they end up choosing your rival school. And you do it a week after you put out a story either against a kid's wishes or embellishing what he said just to own your rival school, man. It's pathetic. It's just pathetic. Hey, it's Chuck.
My number one wide receiver on Michigan's recruiting board is Quincy Porter.
It's so soft, dude. I mean, God, that guy. All right, let's get to some comments today and wrap her up, shall we? All right, guys, let's get to some comments and wrap her up here. What do we got here? Post-shiesty mask from Christopher Sowers. Christopher is describing, I asked what this thing was. Apparently that's called a post-shiesty mask. And just like I learned what the smile with sweat emoji was, I've now learned what a post-shiesty mask was. OSP, the OG, this is our resident Oregon fan. Davison going to Oregon's farm team, Juck. It ain't going to be that easy to take a modern-day kid from us. Come on now. Hey, you know what? He was right. I think he's going to Oregon, and the modern-day curse for Ohio State continues. Let's just hope Chris Henry Jr. ends it, because if it goes to him, buddy, we got problems. Not really. We never got problems. We're the Ohio State University. Invincibility. Haven't played a game yet this season. So he is referring to me saying, I believe, Ohio State invincibility on one of my previous episodes. What that refers to is Ohio State having never had a down period in the history of Ohio State football. The only school that's never had a down period, the most consistent program in the history of college football, and the number one program of all time in the Juck on Bucks poll. That's what that refers to. It's called Ohio State invincibility. Apologize if I didn't make that clear. I didn't originate that phrase. That's what it's called. That's not my phrase. I totally would take credit for it if I could. I love it. Let's see. Dave Schrody says, it appears to me Sanders, Autry, and Brew are also going to be Buckeyes. I mean, that would be fantastic. It certainly would. As far as Sanders goes, a fella here says, Robert Thompson, everyone, and I mean everyone inside the Ohio State world, thinks that they have Sanders. I'm talking coaches. Players feel strongly they got him. Hell, Tennessee even spelled his name wrong. Who's best friends with him? Paris Johnson. So, listen, I just caution you so you don't get your feelings hurt. Just want to let you know. Yes, that is all true. Everybody on our side feels that way. They're saying the exact same thing on the Tennessee side, like the exact same thing. However, the Buckeyes did great on the visit, answered every question they possibly could have by taking him medical school. He talked to the doctors. He wants to be a surgeon. They brought the women's volleyball team in to talk to his sister. They played around with his sister because she loves volleyball. His mom, they made her feel very comfortable, and they have facilitated the relationship for Paris Johnson to be able to talk to David. And they've gotten to know each other a little bit. I wouldn't call them best friends, but they've definitely gotten to know each other. His mom, Paris Johnson's mom, Monica, has gotten a hold of his parents, and they've talked. And they're great people, and they're smart people. So you would think, just based on all that they would choose Ohio State over Tennessee. But you never know. So I think we're in the driver's seat here. I really do. And I've seen some people that are really plugged in say, we think. And, that's not concrete enough for me to get myself ready to get my soul crushed, because it'll hurt bad if I do that. So I'm just going to try to stay level about it. As for Malik Autry, I think it's a more long shot to get him than Sanders. I'll put it that way. And Brew, I think we're in the driver's seat. I like where we're sitting. I think we're going to get him. Though I did hear that he is the one thing that is giving him pause is being in the same class with Devin Sanchez and Naeem Offer, the number 1 and 2 corner in the class. And certainly you can understand why that would be intimidating to think you might be riding the pine, because the Buckeyes do want him at corner. However, he's awesome. And, dude's going to play. He's absolutely going to play. All right. Luke from the tailgate, our old buddy Luke. Nothing like listening to Juck on Bucks talk about Ohio State losing to Georgia because of a horrible call, picking up a flag on a targeting call in the end zone that knocked out your star wide receiver to get you motivated to lift heavier than normal. Luke, listen. Some people listen to music when they train. Luke listens to me. I love it. Let me fire you up, Lukey. One more set. Let's go. Lightweight. Get it. Ontario High School is not in Mansfield. It's in Ontario, Ohio. What is wrong with all you guys? Every one of you keeps getting this wrong. That's from Jimmy. Jimmy, but listen, some high schools aren't named after the hometown they're in. Okay. I thought Ontario High School was just in reference to somewhere named Ontario. I didn't know there was an Ontario, Ohio. I'm sorry. Nothing's wrong with me. It says Mansfield, Ohio on his player card on 247. I said Mansfield. I apologize. I don't mean to disrespect your hometown of Ontario, Ohio. I'm sure it's a lovely place. My guy here's got a reminder for everybody. Buckeye Corey, just want to let you know, Chuck, I've been watching since day one. Appreciate you, dude. I look down and see that somehow YouTube unsubscribed me, so maybe remind the viewers every now and again to sub or check and make sure YouTube hasn't pulled any funky stuff. Guys, please check if you are intended to be subscribed to this channel and make sure that you are. And if you're not, I'd appreciate it if you did. Also, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. That would be fantastic. If you're mad at me today, I understand. I get it. Maybe next time. Please find me on any of your, podcast platforms. I'm on them all. And you can find me there. And that'll be it, guys. Thanks so much. Chuck and Bucks out.